What a wild few days of being a Texas A&M football fan this has been. The program has been absolutely all over the place. It's been a really up and down year, mostly down in the ways that really count in losing these big games. But you have an extremely promising, clean, cathartic performance versus Mississippi State. A feel-good win at Kyle Field, at night, packed house, in front of the 12th man, and you absolutely show out versus a team that you were supposed to beat by a significant margin, but you even exceeded those expectations with a third-string quarterback, without Evan Stewart, without Le'Veon Moss, and you go out there, you just play a great game. And it turns out that was Jimbo Fisher's farewell game, and we didn't know it at the time. The next morning, he was fired. Crazy. Just crazy. You have the cathartic win, and then the next morning, Jimbo's gone. And I know those two aren't related at all. The decision was made after the Ole Miss game. The Board of Regents met on Thursday. They didn't want to have a short week or a short 2-day period where the head coach is out and the team's preparing for a game on that Saturday. So they did it on Sunday. This is a process that I thought would be happening in the offseason. I never thought they would have let him go mid-season. I thought it would have happened, after a bowl loss or after losing to LSU. But it comes after a win versus Mississippi State. So the timing is just crazy. It's mind-blowing. Every time I'm doing something, I'm at work, and I stop and think about the fact that Jimbo is fired, my mind is constantly blown. This was something I kind of dreaded. The coaching search, the uncertainty, the reset. I was on board with keeping Jimbo another year, but no, it happened now. And I dreaded the speculation. People throwing names in the hats. People arguing over who the next man should be. Arguing about what A&M needs in the next coach. But it turns out, I'm overcome with excitement. I'm excited. I'm excited for a lot of things. I'm excited for the end of this season. I want to see what Bobby Petrino does as the sole leader of this offense. It was an exciting game versus Mississippi State, and the complex playbook that Jimbo Fisher usually utilizes, it wasn't really in action versus Mississippi State because he had a quarterback that was limited. He's in his first year here. He's a younger guy, inexperienced, so they simplified it. I hope we see more of that, and I think we will. I'm even excited for this Abilene Christian game. I am normally down on these FCS November cupcakes, but this week I'm excited for it. I want to see how Jalen Henderson looks. I want to see what the offense looks like. I want to see how this team comes together around Elijah Robinson. I'm excited for the coaching search. There are a lot of exciting names out there. I have a list of names I'm going to give you guys later. Some names that are kind of at the forefront, that have kind of risen to the top of the discussion in this short 2-day period since he's been fired. The most consistent names I've been seeing. There are a couple of wildcard names I want to mention too. I'm really curious who's going to take this thing and run with it. Because as we Aggies know, this is a football program that is ready to contend soon. This is not a full rebuild. I never felt like this was a program in shambles. I never felt like there was a lack of buy-in. I never felt like there was a culture issue at Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher. I felt like the message from the players was consistent with the message we were getting from the coaches. They all talked about the inches. They all talked about execution. They all seemed to trust their coaches and the game plan. We never saw deviation from that. We never saw players quit on this team. I don't think there's a culture problem here. This is truly, as Josh Pate put it, a turnkey program. Of course, there are a lot of naysayers about Texas A&M. The traditions, the Yell leaders, a lot of that stuff, I understand it looks goofy from the outside looking in. And a big shot that people take against Texas A&M, and a reason many people cite to blame A&M for its lack of success, is that the expectations outweigh the possibilities at Texas A&M. I will tell you why the expectations are so high here at Texas A&M. We know exactly what this program has to offer. We know exactly what it can be, so we expect to at some point hit what it can be. We know that this program has a top 5 stadium atmosphere in the country. We know this program has top tier facilities. We know this program has ultimate school buy-in. I don't know of a program in the country that prioritizes football as much as Texas A&M does, both monetarily and just general buy-in wise. Ultimate fan support. Kyle Field was absolutely packed in a November game where Texas A&M is 5-4 going up against 4-5 Mississippi State. Both coaches got fired the next day, and Kyle Field was rocking. A&M is also in the biggest recruiting hotbed in the country. Houston is arguably the best recruiting city in the country. A&M's about an hour drive from there. A&M is settled right between San Antonio, Houston, and Austin, and Dallas isn't that far away. It has tradition, it has the fans, it has the atmosphere, it has the facilities, and yes, it has the roster to perform right away. So this program is going to attract the best that the coaching market has to offer. Now, here's the thing about the coaching market that's really weird. We really don't know what the market is exactly, because we don't know what coaches that are currently locked into their current schools are willing to leave for Texas A&M. So it's a really cloudy market. We don't really know who the players are, which is why at the end of the day, it is so often that a name out of left field just appears and becomes your coach. That was the case with Jimbo, and that was the case with Kevin Sumlin. I'm going to list some names here in this video, but I would not be surprised if it's someone whose name you haven't even seen yet. So keep that in mind. But A&M is ready to go. I think that this coaching search and this coaching market is unique in that regard. I think A&M is ready to go in 2024 and have thought that for many years. 2024 has been a year that me and many other Aggies, insiders, media members have circled as A&M's potential year to break through, both because of roster makeup, a lot of good players becoming upperclassmen, and the easing of the schedule. Alabama or Georgia not on the schedule. So I think that it should be a major factor in this coaching search that whatever coach you get is able to retain players. For that reason, I think some lesser known coaches, some coaches who haven't really established themselves, like Jeff Traylor, maybe take a little bit of a hit when you're kind of ranking your options. Not to say that Jeff Traylor is a bad option. I'm just saying that kind of thing should be factored in, because 2024 with this roster was always going to be a fun year. And I don't know what breaking through is. It could be a 10-win year. It could be a playoff year. It could be a SEC championship year. Whatever it is, it was always going to be potentially a year for A&M to make some noise. So that's a factor. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what qualities this coach needs. But I also want to talk about Elijah Robinson and what Jimbo Fisher left behind. But first, if you guys could like and subscribe to this channel, that would help me greatly. This channel is growing like crazy. I appreciate all of you guys so much for sticking through the highs and the lows of the Aggie season, commenting, liking, subscribing, always being there watching these videos. You guys have been amazing. I wouldn't do it if it weren't for you guys, so I thank you. So if you could like and subscribe, that would help me greatly. And I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. When I hit 1,000 on my Wednesday call-in show, I am going to ring dunk at the beginning of the show. So if you haven't joined for the Wednesday live show, it's 8 p.m. Wednesday Central Time. It's a call-in show, so you guys can call. It's been a lot of venting this year, but you guys can call, talk about the coaching search, do all that kind of stuff. We have a lot of fun. So thanks, guys. Let's get into it. So yeah, I wanted to talk about Elijah Robinson. He took to the podium on Monday, did the head coach press conference as acting head coach for Texas A&M. He's the interim. He's the guide between what was and what will be for Texas A&M. The way he spoke in this presser led me to believe that he was told that his position is temporary, that he's not going to be the head guy long term. Although I think many Aggies would be okay if he was, I do think they're going to do their due diligence in searching for the right guy. I don't think it's going to be Elijah. A lot of us would be okay if it was. Regardless, he's there now. I'm excited to see this team under him. We all knew that Elijah had a special connection with the defensive line, truly a player's coach, a coach that players gravitated towards, could relate to, could talk to, could open up to. I think we've always sensed that and knew that about him. But what became evident after his presser was that that relationship extends beyond just the defensive line. He said that he has made an effort through his time at Texas A&M to make connections with each and every player on the roster. You talk about retention in 2024. Very promising year. I think Elijah is the perfect guide to navigate through this task. I think he brings the team together. I think he's the kind of guy the team will rally around. I think he's the kind of guy that they're going to go to bat for. And I think we are in the best possible position with him as interim head coach. Do you guys agree? I'm so glad to have him. I hope he stays in Aggie land for a long, long time. He's a great guy. I'm so happy to have him. But you talk about retention. Talk about names that can keep as many players as possible on this roster. I think that's a priority in this coaching search because 2024, this roster is so stacked right now, at least in young talent that is growing up and will be amazing in a couple of years. Specifically next year, right away. What kind of coach will it take to keep them all around? As many as possible, because there will be transfers, guys. It's going to happen. Hate to say it. There are going to be some big names that leave the program. Who minimizes that? An established coach does. A coach that these young players have heard of, maybe have relationships with through recruiting, guys that they've seen on TV growing up, guys that they respect from afar maybe, coaches they can trust, coaches they feel good about, coaches who walk through that door and command respect. I don't think it's the end-all be-all, but I think it's a major factor in this specific coaching search. It's not like Texas A&M is a pile of rubble while losing their head coach. It's not like a Michigan State where you have a full reset, you need to be built from the ground up. Texas A&M is ready to go right now, before the transfers begin. Who minimizes that? Couple of names. And I'm going to do some wild cards in here. These are names that are just shot in the dark because you don't know who is truly a candidate here. Let's start realistic. Who is a turnkey coach? I think Dan Lanning is a turnkey coach for Texas A&M. I think he has risks, though. I think he has great recruiting pedigree. He's been in the South. He's currently recruiting the hell out of California. He has experience on different parts of the country, connections on different parts of the country. Recruiting is going to be strong with him. And it's not like Texas A&M has issues recruiting, even without an elite recruiter like Jimbo Fisher, but I think it should still be a factor. Dan Lanning brings it. Track record. He has 2 years of elite head coaching experience, and he coached under Kirby Smart just before that as the DC at Georgia. It's a pretty good pedigree. Now, the problem with Dan Lanning is that he's going to require a pretty penny. And don't forget, obviously you won't, A&M's paying Jimbo for the next 8 years. So you're paying 2 head coaches at the same time. Dan Lanning just got extended. I think it's about $45 million over 5 years. You're going to have to outbid him. You're going to have to pay for his buyout, which is $20 million. You're going to have to outbid Nike. It's oil money versus Nike, the classic battle that we all know and love. Because of that, I think there's a lot of risk with Dan Lanning. As much as I think he's a great fit, as much as I think him sitting at the helm of this football program is so good for this program, he only has 2 years of head coach experience, and that's okay. But for the amount of money you're going to have to pay to get him, I think it's a little risky. Dan Lanning is a great option, but I think there's a lot of risk with getting him in. All right, I'm actually in the process of uploading this video right now, and I was just listening to Dan Lanning's Monday press conference, which occurs at 8:45 Central Time, which is crazy. He definitively shut down the idea of leaving Oregon as hard as a coach can possibly shut down the idea of leaving a job. He said there's 0% chance I leave Oregon. My contract is not an issue, yada, yada, yada. As hardcore as you can be about not leaving as a coach can possibly be. Now, of course, words can be one thing, actions can tell a different story, but we have to go off of what he said, at least for now. He definitively shut down leaving Oregon. So I'm going to leave this in the video right here. Video continues now. Another name that might be able to retain some players, a guy that we're all very familiar with, a guy that's been in the forefront of the discussion the whole time, Mike Elko. He's been my number one for the last 2 years. I've kind of soured on him. As much as I like him, Duke has kind of had a mediocre year, although they've had some key injuries this year. The thing that I love about Mike Elko, aside from the fact that he's coached here and had relationships with the players that are currently on the team now, it's just how the players talk about him. They all hold him at such high regard. Buddy Johnson is constantly tweeting about Mike Elko, even today. I mean, these players really, really come together around Mike Elko. Now, his track record, he hasn't been there, done that like a lot of other guys have, but he's been here, and I think that counts for something. He's not going to be the most expensive coach. I don't know that it has a crazy buyout at Duke. I don't know what he brings recruiting-wise, but at Texas A&M, I don't think that's the absolute priority. I think Mike Elko's a really good option. I'm sure many of you do too, but I'm sure many of you want A&M to shoot a little bit higher than that, at least to start. Not that Mike Elko's a bad option. I don't want to sound like I'm too high and mighty for Mike Elko. I would love Mike Elko, but I think they should look around before they go for an Elko. Those are kind of the two names that are the most proven, that have the most track record, that are in the forefront of the discussion right now. Now, if you want to get a little bit crazy, Urban Meyer, I mean, it's probably not going to happen. It's almost definitely not going to happen. But that's the kind of guy that you're going to keep a lot of players with and probably get a lot of players in the transfer portal. I don't know what his health situation is. I know he left college ball because of the stress. I don't know if that's a real thing or not, or if it was him escaping scandals. I don't know. I can't speak to it. I really don't know. But I do know he's a great coach. He would be here. He would be an instant contender, and it would be an awesome home run hire, in my opinion. But it's such a shot in the dark. It is so unlikely. It's hard to take it seriously. It's hard to break it down more than just saying it would be nice. I know a lot of people are down on him because of his scandals and stuff in the past that have happened. It's true, but look at the staff right now. It's not exactly a squeaky clean slate. I don't think we're in a position to point at that too much, but if that's your personal preference, I totally understand that. I would like it. It would be a home run in my opinion. Now you kind of go into more of the unknowns, more of the guys that are kind of a shot, but have great potential. Jeff Traylor, UTSA head coach. I think he won 11 games in back-to-back years. Kind of started this year slow, but he has them back on the map. I believe they're 6-3 right now, undefeated in conference play. He's a Texas high school football legend. He's been in the state for a long time. He has deep, bountiful connections with many high school programs in the state of Texas. Of course, you want a coach that can reach out and recruit the whole country, but that's a great starting point in recruiting. The thing about him is he's actually not that young. He's 55 years old. He's young in coaching experience at the college level. He's done really well in his short list of collegiate experience. He won Recruiter of the Year, Big 12 Recruiter of the Year at Texas under Charlie Strong, which is impressive. I like him a lot. I think he fits the personality of Texas A&M. Listen to him talk. He's a countryman. But I don't know how much you retain if you keep Traylor. I don't know how much the players, respect him from afar. I'm sure he commands respect once he's in, but I don't know if he commands enough respect from afar to keep as many players as possible. I think he's definitely on the list. He's definitely on my list, but I don't think he's, at the top of the list. Glenn Schumann, the DC for Kirby Smart at Georgia. He went to high school in Texas. He has some distant connections there. Seems like kind of a shot in the dark kind of a pick. Kind of a guy that you would hope to grow with. It's a name that keeps popping up time and time again. I think the long-term potential would be great with a guy like that, but it's not a guy that's like a turnkey, strong 2024, I don't think. And of course, any of these guys can run away with it in 2024, but from looking from the outside, I don't see that as a guy that's going to take this roster next year and take the year and run with it and have a good 2024 and retain as many players as possible. I do like his experience. I like that he's young. He's a long-term kind of a guy. He's not at the top of my list. I think he should be mentioned. It's possible that he interviews and he gets it, but I don't know, guys. How do you feel about Schumann? I'm still kind of iffy on him. I could be convinced, though. You'd probably get him pretty cheap, and like I said, and like there's a lot of money moving around for Texas A&M right now. And by the way, it was reported by Billy Lucci that A&M is limited on their potential to pay coaches right now because of the buyout. I don't know what limited means. I'm sure A&M could still pay up to $10 million, but you'd probably rather pay less for that for a risk. And I think Schumann is a risk. Kalen DeBoer, head coach at Washington. He's had a hell of a 2 years there, a hell of a year this year. Modern offense, spread look, fun, exciting offense. I don't know. In my opinion, he doesn't have enough connections to Texas, to the South, to really be the guy. But he's another shot in the dark you could take. A head coach at a high-profile team that is having a lot of success right now. It's kind of a weird fit in my opinion, but it's a name that's out there nonetheless. Now let's get real crazy. Lane Kiffin? No. As much fun as I might have covering him and talking about him in these videos, I just don't think he would work out in Aggie Land because I just think too many people hate him right now. And if he were to get hired and if he were to have the job, I'm sure some people would eventually come around to him. But I just don't think they're going to even explore that path with the relationship that he's had with Texas A&M over the last few years. the amount of back and forth bad blood. I just don't see it happening. I can't totally write it off, but it's like a 0.001% chance. Now let's get stupid. Deion Sanders. I know some of you guys want this. I know. I've seen you. You're out there. I just don't take it seriously, man. I just don't think that he's the fit at Texas A&M. What is he? He acquires talent. He's a great recruiter in the transfer portal, and he gets players to come to his program. I think you have to have amazing coordinators around him, but I just can't see him coming around, slinging that big old chain around and, making the demands that he does, taking control like he does, and over this board, over these donors at Texas A&M. I just don't see him coming in and having that persona here. I also don't think he's a particularly good coach. I mean, Colorado's like 4-6. They have some really talented pieces that were able to get them some early wins. But, I mean, Travis Hunter's getting beaten down. They're limited in the trenches. I mean, I just don't see it, man. I don't see that fit at all. It might be fun, but I don't think it would be like a winning recipe. Could be wrong. Don't think it happens. Yeah, those are kind of the main names that are getting thrown around right now. Like I said, there are a bunch of names that could just randomly jump into the discussion at the last minute. We really don't know. A couple more guys I want to highlight. I already kind of spoke towards one of them. But inside hires, Elijah Robinson, Bobby Petrino. I don't know that they're the best options available right now. I personally am not 100% opposed to either. I'm more for the Elijah Robinson one than the Bobby one. It's only been not even a full year of Bobby. We don't know how he feels about A&M. We really don't know what he's like as the true offensive coordinator. Many of us have felt a strong Jimbo influence in this offense throughout the year. So we really need to really keep evaluating Bobby. I personally hope he's retained as the offensive coordinator unless another slam dunk hire pops out or a better fit for whoever the head coach is pops up. I'm really excited to see Bobby in these last 3 games. And like I said, Elijah Robinson, a guy the players already love. We don't know how he is at managing a team as a head coach because he has no experience in doing that. You'd have to have some guys around him that can really buff him up. I'm not opposed to it, guys. I would not hate it if Elijah Robinson won the job, but I don't think it happens. So, guys, tell me some names that I missed. What are some names at the top of your list? I guess while I'm at it, those are kind of the names at the forefront that I just highlighted. I'll give you my priority list right now, my rankings right now. I think at the end of the day, my number 1 is still Mike Elko. No, let me rephrase. My number 1 is Urban Meyer. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it's almost literally impossible to get him. I think he's retired. I think he's done playing college football. I don't think he would coach in a high stress environment like the SEC, like Texas A&M is with all these expectations. I think if anything, you could see him go to like a less stress program if he wants to keep coaching. I just don't see it happening. But he's my number 1. It's not going to happen. So my true number 1 is Mike Elko. It's just, I like Dan Lanning more as a fit. I do. I like Dan Lanning, his potential, his youth, his energy. I just think with the amount of money you'd have to pay to get him, it's just so risky. It's so risky to pull him in. Of course, it could really work out. It could pay off. But for me, that risk is just enough to have me edge him out with Mike Elko. So Elko's still my number 1. The way the players talk about him, the fact that he's been here before. My number 3 is Jeff Traylor. I think he has a ton of potential, even though he's 55 years old. I think he's on the rise. I think he stayed in high school for longer than most guys his age would. And I think his track record is just happening later in life. And I think he's a true Texas guy. He had an interview today. He was asked about the A&M job. He in no way shot it down. I think he'd be interested in it, guys, and I think A&M can get him pretty cheap. I would not be mad at all if it was him. And I think my number 4 is Elijah Robinson. That's just how it sits for me right now. Guys, give me your priority list. I want to hear it. I'm so open for discussion, and I will be changing my mind many times. Yesterday, I wanted Lane Kiffin. Today, I don't. So things are moving real fast in my mind right now. This is crazy, guys. This is crazy. I'm excited. I just want to say I do like Jimbo Fisher. I wish him the absolute best. If I'm him, I'm retiring, and I'm going to go work on my ranches, plural. He has multiple ranches. He made that known. And I'm going to go work on them, and I'm never going to work again. Besides doing that and working on personal investments and endeavors. You got to stay busy, right? But guys, that's all I have today. I just wanted to talk about this coaching search. And I'm probably going to visit it again later this week or next week. I'm not going to do a pregame video for Abilene Christian because it's Abilene Christian. I will be live Wednesday night at 8 p.m. I hope to see as many of you guys as possible there. We'd love to have you. I'm probably going to go a little bit longer this week. I usually do about an hour show, hour 15. I'm willing to go up to 2, maybe 3 hours if we have enough callers. If you guys want to jump in, please do. Like and subscribe. I'll see you then. Thanks, and gig 'em.